Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Amanda, and I am a psychiatric survivor. I'm also thinking about becoming a health coach and a taper coach to help people withdraw from psychiatric drugs. I've been on this journey for close to a year now of trying to get myself to a point where I feel well enough that I can be of service to others and have some kind of insight into the process of coming off psychiatric drugs and staying healthy while you're off of them. So, um, I also am just trying to get myself into um better shape. I'm 43 and I used to be a personal trainer. So I'm trying to find a balance between being a fitness enthusiast and um, focusing on more of a holistic vision of health. So I can tell you that this is the first video that I've made in months and months, although I've been uploading and slowly dropping videos. I stopped making videos uh, shortly after the election. Um, I made a video where I uploaded me reading a short story that I had written. Um, I suffer from a lot of post traumatic stress, and um, the election outcome sent me into a sort of panic state. It sent a lot of people into similar responses. I've noticed people are giving lefty types are giving each other advice about how to cope. Um, So for me, the worst was really November and December because and most of January. And so I really, really backslid a lot in my health behaviors. I started drinking, I started vaping again. I quit working out. I went into total self-abandonment mode and was starting to come out of that in the beginning of this month and really getting back on track. And I am now facing a hurdle that I want to talk about because it involves women's health issues, birth control, um, and more generally, the kind of behavior in our medical system that I think is inducing rage in people. And uh, I mean, a lot has happened since I made my last video. So um, you're never going to untangle health and politics in this country, in my country. Um, it's it's just very fascinating topic. It's a very topical terrain um, right now. I mean, for example, my main thing is I'm a psychiatric survivor, and I'm also a liberal. I'm horrified and appalled, although I've seen this coming for a long, long time. So I don't care to be in this country anymore. That's why I've moved. I've moved in with my boyfriend, and we're actively planning to escape America. I feel like I have no chance actually at a healthy, happy, productive life here. I have felt that for a long, long time. Actually, I felt that actually since before the 2016 election. But I question myself, and um, I question my own judgment on that front um, for several years, and then I dithered, and then so mostly I think the prospect of leaving and resettling somewhere else and becoming an expat was just so intimidating to me that I procrastinated. And in terms of my panic response, I can't really disclose in this video uh, exactly what that's about. Um, I don't know if it's fair to say that it's a little bit more than just the generalized disgust and disdain for um, the new fascist regime and what they've done to the Republican Party. I mean, we didn't care for Republicans, but these people are fucking Nazis. They're fucking Nazis. And so there's reason to be terrified. There's reason to be disgusted. I have noticed in myself since the election, that I just, it was as if I had suffered another interpersonal blow or setback. It was that deep and it was that hard and it was that fast. But it was that way for a lot of people who are not psychiatric survivors and not necessarily sensitized the way that I think that I am. Um, it just, I felt despondent for a long time and became paralyzed. And then I would go through periods of, rage, anger, and then I would be like really, really ambitious and like, no, we really must do something. And, just wanting to throw myself into projects and plans of resistance, but not even knowing where to begin. So what are the trauma responses? Freeze, fawn, fight or flight, right? So I vacillate between fight and flight, and then I run out of energy, and then I go into freeze, and then I go into depression because I'm depleted of energy. So if you're going through that right now, um I don't have any words of comfort or wisdom because it's not what I'm doing yet. Right now I'm just working on advocacy. Right now I'm just learning and doing research. Um but one thing about my situation was that beating myself up for having that kind of response to what was going on and telling myself that it was disproportional and being upset with myself that I abandoned my goals and I felt like I wasn't moving forward because it really wasn't moving forward in terms of learning what I need to learn to become a health coach, in terms of getting myself well. Um, I think that what's going on in my country is so historically it's so historic and it's so catastrophic that I really don't give a fuck. I mean, and so that actually helped because I couldn't stay in it for um very much longer. If I judged myself for having that kind of response, then I would probably be in it right now. But I'm not. I really am not. And I feel like the fear response was a lot worse than when he actually entered office, because then I felt like, okay, now I have a sense of what's going on, as opposed, and actually well, he's far exceeded my expectations in terms of the damage, but at least there isn't this looming anticipatory um like dread. So, of course, if you don't know what's going to happen, you imagine things that are just the worst possible. And so at any rate, that is a recap of why there's a gap in my vlog. Now, um, what I'm about to talk about, I didn't want to make a video but I decided that it was important to capture it in the moment as it's happening. A couple of things are happening. I am having to have a second mammogram because my annual mammogram screening came back um is abnormal and they don't know why. So I'm going to have another mammogram next week. And the same clinic also is the clinic that I have been going to for my birth control. Um, and mm, about 2 years ago, maybe a little over, maybe 3 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, I had an IUD put in. I had a copper IUD put in because I was interested in non-hormonal birth control. Um, and it caused such heavy bleeding and cramping that I eventually just pulled it out myself one day. I just couldn't take it, and I just was like, I just I did it, and it wasn't that big of a deal. I didn't feel like um I just did it. I don't know how to explain it, but I was like, it just didn't feel like I actually felt like the bleeding was so heavy that it was actually pushing the thing out, like my body was trying to expel it, and I was just so that was the copper IUD, which the doctor explained after it had been installed that it would oh yes, those ones make you have heavy bleeding. I don't so but it wasn't that big of a deal. And I remember I told them, like, I pulled the IUD out, and they were horrified, and they were like, "You should come in, and the doctor should examine you to make sure that you're not that you didn't damage yourself." And I was like, "I think I'm okay." Felt fully confident that that hadn't happened. Now, then the need for birth control was, once again in the forefront of my mind. And I chose of my options the hormonal in part because I am in my 40s and I entered into this phase of I guess perimenopause where I was bleeding every other week. So every other week is period week. I mean, you bleed half the time and it was just in hindsight, I thought at the time, I was like, "Oh God, oh heavens, oh woe is me. Like I can't, I'm having to take my iron was low, I was slightly anemic, et cetera. But like, and it was just annoying. And in hindsight, I thought that that was terrible. Um, but now I have some perspective. Okay, because the hormonal IUD that I chose to put in had it installed 7, maybe 8 weeks ago, and I think I've had 2, maybe 3 weeks where I wasn't clawing the walls with some kind of something. The latest is that I feel like I have to pee all the time, and my abdomen looks like I have a bowl shoved in me. Like, it's I want to just show you because I don't normally do shit like this, but this is insanity. This is motherfucking insanity. And I really went back and forth with myself and I said, okay, well, maybe I have a bladder infection. And then I realized that I've had bladder infections before. And when I do, I get a fever, I get dizzy, it burns when I pee. And that doesn't feel like what's going on. What feels like what's going on is like the thing is poking my bladder, which sounds a bit, I don't know. I had it inserted. Then I had a string check, which failed because she couldn't find the string. Because guess what? It's not there. It broke off. Yeah, I've been exploring, and then she sent me to get an ultrasound to make sure that it was in the right place. And the ultrasounds came back, and apparently it's in the right place, which I don't understand how this can be the basis for it was in the right place at that particular time. I can tell you right now, the string is gone and the tip of it is sticking out of my cervix. Isn't that great? I know. Totally TMI. What do you expect? I'm a psychiatric survivor, and that's what you're gonna get. So I am so incensed. And then because I concluded that this thing is not I'm not reacting well. It's a foreign object and my body is not we're not I am not taking it. The body is not taking it. Um so I faulted myself for choosing it and was like, it's kind of against my principles as a patient. It What do I mean by that? So it's not necessary to advance my health, my longevity, or to reverse a pathogenic state. It's not necessary for health. This is something that I did to convenience myself and my boyfriend and accommodate our sex life, frankly. So I blame myself, but I also have anger towards the medical establishment for making this option okay and not communicating the risks involved. when you get into a situation like mine where every day something bleeding, poking, feeling like you need to pee all the time, feeling swollen, having pelvic pain. Uh, what do? You go online and you research, and what do you get? You get horror stories. Um, you get worst case scenarios. You get the sensational clickbait stuff. And it's natural. And I actually think it's quite interesting in that we are performing to some extent a protective service for one another. But I also think that part of the problem with health and health topics is getting away from evidence and getting into these anecdotal rabbit holes, or these little communities that spring up around particular practices. It's very, very, very problematic. So, what does a person need? A person needs to have a trusted doctor, a relationship with someone who is available, accessible, and with whom they have a good, open communication channel. Um, and for me, that just doesn't exist yet. Uh, as a psychiatric survivor, one of the worst experiences is going to the doctor. And I developed an aversion to healthcare and healthcare settings, which the more and more that I unpack it, might not even have that much to do with me being a psychiatric survivor, because it seems to be shared by many people as this rage, this outrage that I feel. I I right now in this moment, I feel alienated, I feel underserved, and I feel extremely disempowered because I'm in a situation where I am having to try to beg and plead with the people who installed this IUD to take it out. And they, the first time I called them, when I figured out that it really was the IUD that was causing this bladder pressure in my mind. Um, and I could be wrong, but I don't think it will help. So I want it gone. Um, I reached a breaking point, and they don't think it's been in long enough. They clearly are kind of, the tone they're taking with me is like that I'm overreacting. And when I called to book the appointment to have the IUD removed, and I reported that I was having pelvic pain, frequent urination, pressure, bloating, can't sleep at night, I have poor sleep because as I'm trying to sleep, I feel it, and then I feel like I have to pee. And, you know, I can't drink enough water because that makes it worse. I told them all of this, and the very first thing that they told me was that they would have to wait to book an appointment for me because they needed to check with the insurance company, because the insurance company probably would have there would be a cost associated for the early removal of it. And she was going to be really good and she was going to use pelvic pain as the diagnostic code. So I'm on the phone and I'm thinking, in the very least, I can give myself peace of mind today because I can give myself an appointment date, maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks, to like put my mind so I can psychologically take it. Because another issue here is that the hormones kicked in big time around 2 or 3 days ago, because it's during the time of my cycle when I would be having a period. Instead, I've just bled a little bit every day for the last 24 out of 28 days. So, but it's that point in the cycle. And prior to these experiences, I've been really blessed to not have ever had problems with my menstrual cycle. I've not really ever experienced a lot of pain, cramping, heavy bleeding. I even was fortunate to have like a 5 week long or a 6 week long cycle. Like it just has been outside of these kinds of interventions pretty easy breezy for me. As a person, I feel like I'm blessed. Like I have so many friends who have had so many different experiences with their reproductive system that I know that that is at least a thing in a blessed like a category of problem that I am blessed not to have. And so I feel doubly stupid and sad for myself that I've inflicted this on me because it didn't have to happen. And I own that I made this choice, but the part of the outrage kicks in because I can't even get an appointment. I called let's see, what's today? Yeah, I called 2 days ago, Thursday, February 27th. And I said I'm at my breaking point, and that's when I got the runaround, and I got delayed. I wasn't even allowed to book an appointment until they checked with the insurance company. And they said, "Well, we will call you back." They called me back the next day, and they told me that I could come in on March 31st. They didn't express any interest in having me be examined in the meantime or take antibiotics in the event of an infection. But that was the first available date that they could get a clinician with an Indoc, which is some kind of contraption that they think they're going to have to use because they can't grasp it. So they already at least know that. And I'm very upset. I'm just very upset. Um, and what I did was going into it, I said, okay, I'm in a battle and I'm going to fight and I'm going to protect myself. Um, and so before I called her back to set up the appointment, I gave myself full permission to go into, um, how would I even describe it? Ballistic high bitch mode. And that's what I did. I said, decimate this bitch. Take her out, take her down. And I took her face off over the phone. So then her manager got on the phone and immediately booked me an appointment for the 17th, which is still way too sad and enraging for me to think that I would just spend the next 17 days in pain. And if you go and you look at, there's videos of women talking about what removing the IUD themselves. And this is why. And I think it is shameful. And I think it is a shameful lack of not it's not just about women. This isn't just about women and IUDs and stuff. This is about a bloated octopus-like system strangling the shit out of the population. Okay, iatrogenic deaths are somewhere in the top 10. It's in the top 10 causes of death. That means dying from some kind of medical intervention that didn't go the way that it was, or yeah, something. Okay. So doctors killing patients is in the top 10 causes of death. I'm not sure. And I also want to put a little caveat on that and saying the statistics might be inflated, but because, certain deaths might be categorized as iatrogenic harm when they're really, really we're talking about severely ill people who didn't have much more lifespan to go. So I'm going to give them a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. But beyond that, medical costs account for 18 to 20% of our GDP. And medical debt is the number one cause of bankruptcy. Okay, I'm just gonna be totally honest with you. By the time you see this video, I hope things are different in my life or whatever. But I make about $46,000 a year, and I only ever get to touch less than $24,000 of it because that's how much money I lose in taxes and insurance. I was uninsured for 7 years, which I've talked about why I was uninsured on my channel and what it was like to be uninsured and how humiliating it was. But sometimes I look back on that time and I wish I were still uninsured because I didn't do stupid shit like this to myself because I couldn't afford to. And I have tried so hard to overcome what I think is the psychological scarring and baggage that I carry from my experiences with the psychiatric industry. I've tried very, very, very hard to dismantle that in myself so that I can have a regular, normie relationship with doctors. And I have tried to keep an open mind. And I have discussed on this channel how I would never try to inflict an anti doctor, anti Western medicine bias on anyone, and I don't think it would be a responsible thing for a health coach to impart to her clientele. However, that said, honestly, I'm going back in this moment, in this experience, it's bringing up a lot of issues for me that I think I've gone too far in the direction of discrediting myself, and that I need to be more of an advocate for myself. And because the truth is that another thing is the hormones are not good for me, and I can tell. So I'm having intense crying jags. I'm having a lot of things that just I haven't had in forever. And it's not, I can tell that I have a level of righteous anger, and then there's this amplification that and I feel that. And I also haven't, I feel a sort of like an atrophying or like it's almost like my sense of emotional regulation is sprained. Like I have a very good emotional regulation parameters, and then it just got sprained. And that is because the progesterone hit my brain, and it's not good. So I'm calling the clinic and they're just putting me off and giving me the runaround. And so I'm going to call my GP, who I think I might even have to take. Never done this before. This will be like a new relationship milestone for us. I might have to take my boyfriend in there with me. Because I just feel like I could kill someone. And I know that I won't if he's in the room. And so, and then also, I think it might get them a little bit more in line because right now I feel like the risks to me have been just glossed over. I feel ignored. I feel, uh, and I also just feel like there's no need for it. It's really kind of simple to take one of these things out. I've done it myself in my bathroom, okay? I almost did it at work, but like I was saying, just wait. Um, so the problem with this one is I would, but I can't quite. I tried, and then I chickened out, and then I spent another, I don't know, 45 minutes, like crying, stomping around the house because it's once you have established that, like, okay, this is a foreign object in my body, I can't treat it as such as anything else. It's just the level of irritation is kind of difficult to describe. I mean, I don't know. If you swallowed a cocktail umbrella, I mean, I just don't know how else to describe. Look it up. Looks like a little robot, and looks like a little robot, like a fish hook or a robot antenna or something. Okay? Like a little dragonfly of metal and plastic, and it's fucking ridiculous. I find it that I find that I did this foolish and barbaric, and I'm never going to do it again. I don't know how we can have this kind of arrogance towards the body where we just think, okay, but this is my point about the medical industry. It's very analogous to the psychiatric industry, actually. Medical devices are notoriously, horrifically, um, they malfunction. And when they do, and so I'm seeing some of the same ethical issues play out in the industry at large. I really think that these devices are overhyped and that the market protects itself, which is why most of the negative stuff in the horror stories is all anecdotal, and they're considered safe and reliable, and they're still offered by people like my gynecologist, who won't be my gynecologist very much longer because, frankly, if you're providing these things to people and you're not prepared to take them out, particularly when a patient calls you and they're screaming and they're crying because they're in pain and discomfort, then you have too many goddamn patients. And I'm tired of the excuse making. Another thing that has happened since I made my last video is that Luigi Mangione shot a healthcare executive, and the whole country like erupted into celebratory, like, kudos to you. Um, the only thing that I have to say about that is that he shot an insurance CEO. So everybody spent weeks vilifying insurance companies, but insurance companies only exist as opportunistic vultures who take advantage of the fact that doctors so price gouge us that we have to buy a financial product to protect ourselves from their price gouging. So, root cause analysis is something that my fellow Americans are really falling down on. Okay. And another thing is that because we are conditioned to respect and revere doctors, that's a cultural thing that has taken, I don't know, well over 100 years. But that's anyway. So if you stay tuned, I'll let you know. Um, it's going to be a wild ride. This one's going to be a wild ride, and it's going to be small t trauma, not big T trauma. Small. Like, I can do this. I know I can do this. But after this, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to think more about obedience and agreeableness, these traits that we kind of assign to women, we kind of push onto women or try to condition them into. I mean, because it's just very interesting to me, my interactions. This is 10% about the physicality of having this thing inside me that is causing inflammation and pain and irritation. That's 10%. But it is 90% a battle of efficacy, and it is not the rest of it is a battle between me and a system and people in that system. And that is really fucking sad. It is that is my experience. 90% of this is psychological discomfort. Um and it would be so for anyone else without my history and without my baggage. There's no goddamn reason why we have to pay so much for a system that is gross, bloated, inconvenient, and frankly, just really fucking producing shitty outcomes. I'm really tired of it. Just to get political again for a hot minute. Oh, nuts. When I was growing up, the Soviet Union was held up as this boogeyman. And I was taught that communist societies and socialist societies failed their citizens in the following ways. The government lied, and you couldn't trust them, and horrible things would happen, like the Chernobyl nuclear disaster, and they would spin these terrible, terrible tales, and the people were so repressed, and the people were so ignorant, and they'd done, that and brainwashed and total, that, okay, yeah. Now fucking planes are falling from the sky and wildfires and it's DEI and I'm seeing a lot of Soviet behavior. That's the irony. I'm seeing so much Soviet behavior, Potemkin village, performative, like falling in line behavior and disinformation and I'm seeing so much incompetence and so corruption. So we were always told that we had to really cling to capitalism because it made things like enjoyable and pleasant and efficient, always efficient, right? Nobody over here had to wait in line 4 hours just to get bread and coffee and stuff. And then healthcare was held up as an example, a point of contrast between the evil, corrupt, backward, the communist socialist countries. And it always is. And anytime it's up for debate in terms of policy, it's always that we are told that we have a system that is so glorious and efficient. But why people in other countries have to wait months to be seen? I had to wait months just to have this IUD put in. And then 3 months out, I had to make the appointment and then wait for 3 months. And then the clinic charged my insurance $1,700. And then 2 months go by, and now I have to wait another month, except I cut that in half because I was an effective bitch. Yeah. So explain to me where's the advantage? Because this sounds like the nightmare boogeyman stories about Canadian wait times and British wait times, and and it's not me. It's not personal to me. I don't think this clinic is like I randomly landed on this really like an unlucky. No, it wasn't an unlucky referral. This is just standard treatment, which is why I was really I'm kind of shocked that they're so shocked sometimes when I really take it up to bitch mode. Um, because they're all women and this is another okay. So when I go into bitch mode, hmm, men react like because if there's any underlying sexism or whatever they react like this person is being a bitch or being a pain in the ass. And if I go into bitch mode with women, they react like I am a monster. Maybe I need to be. I'm a monster. Right. Okay. Whatever. And sometimes men actually just like I feel like more yeah, they might be like, yeah, this is uncomfortable, but this is a confrontation. This is a confrontation. I'm a very confrontational person sometimes. I have good equilibrium in a fight. I understand that I'm in a fight and I'm trying to win. And the only thing that came out of this was that I was proud of myself that my bitch mode, I cut the wait time in half. I cut it in half. You think that I care? That I was, oh, bitchy? Oh, ooh, bitchy on the phone? Ooh, ooh, ooh. No, I got what I needed to get done. And the only reason why I went into bitch mode is that because I'm wounded and I'm literally trying to protect my body. I wanted this to work. I really did. I wanted this IUD. I chose to have it put in. And I'm trying to really parse it out. Like, I take full responsibility for this. This was a dumb choice. And until the point where I reach my breaking point, decide to have it removed, and then am told that I need to wait and go another month. Because here's what I'm looking at risking: bacterial vaginosis, which I think is already happening. And I'm not going to get into how I can tell, because that is really just, oh, that is really okay. And I don't, bladder perforation, if it moves, if it migrates, if it goes off on its own, it can poke your bladder. And to the point that it just poked right through. We're talking about tissue and organ damage. That is not happening to me yet. The other thing is pelvic inflammatory disease, which may or may not be happening to me. But whether or not these things are actually going on is best determined by a doctor, okay? But my point is, I know now from how my body's responding that I'm at a greater risk of developing them. And so what I told them when I went into bitch mode on the phone was that I was like not at all happy with how they were willing to roll the dice. You want to roll the dice? I hope that you have the best goddamn liability insurance, because I will be the best goddamn high-handed, litigious, borderline bitch if you fuck up my organs. Because I asked you not to. And I alerted you when there was pain, and I alerted you when there was trouble. And now I have to go and relive that psychological battle with another doctor, because this is an unacceptably long wait time. And I'm hearing and I'm seeing things online that indicate to me that this is just another facet of American life where we have gone full Soviet shitter mode. Okay, we live in shit mode. And this is why I have to leave the country, because only then, when you have these perceptions that like things are really, really, really awful and not right, but it's been such a slow, gradual decline that maybe you start to question your own sanity, right? Because you're told all the time that things are the best, greatest, if we're, fucking hell. Like, this is, you're told, and then when you have these kinds of perceptions that create cognitive dissonance, it's like being smothered to death slowly. So, in order for me to stop the smothering, I'm going to go live in other countries for a while, and I'm going to see how they do things there. And I'm going to see if life is so goddamn frustrating and painful and expensive, frankly, and get back to you. Okay. This is another reason why being a health coach is a huge goal for me, selfishly, because I think it's something that I could do online. So I'm going to need to support myself in order to be mobile. And so yeah, I'll let you know. I guess the big takeaway is that you should never ever ever worry, if you're a psychiatric survivor, about God, overreacting. You should be as vocal and you should be a fighter for yourself, right? You should be a fighter for yourself when it comes to your physical body. And too often I've felt inhibited from that because I'm afraid that it'll be construed as me being borderline or bipolar or manic. And I'm always afraid that I'm being judged, even in every single interaction that doesn't even have to do with psychiatric problems or moods or affective states. I am afraid when I go to see a doctor about my sinuses that he has access to my medical records and can see that I'm a crazy person. I'm afraid that if I talk to him in a certain way, that'll trigger, and so I become but I will tell you this experience, what I've gotten out of it is that it put my back up against a wall, and I was like, I'm in a situation where I need to protect my uterus. I need to protect my bladder. I need to protect my organs by getting this thing that out. And so I that fear, that panic was greater than my inhibitions, and I'm glad for it because I'm going to really work on getting back to um a place where I would advocate for myself without having to think, without having to check myself. Because I constantly do. Um, and I will let you know. Don't get an IUD. It's dumb. It's dumb as fuck. I hope that they take them off the market, honestly. I know that many people have had great success with them and that it's considered the most reliable form of birth control, but I suspect that we're not getting the full picture in terms of data. I suspect that just as with psychiatric drugs and all the harms that those drugs caused were suppressed by the industry because they knew it would hurt market share. I think maybe something's going on here with that and the IUD. And I'll do more reading and I will enlighten you if I feel so inclined. Okay. Peace out.